Welcome to another TCG R&D video where we like to take a look at videos and articles from other games and just other sources to learn a little bit more about what makes a good trading card game. And in this video we are going to be taking a look at Marvel Snap. So let's snap into action. Now above my head is Brode, and he's going to be talking for a full hour on Marvel Snap. And now I'm going to be doing a compressed version, but if you want to check out the full video, check the link in the description below. It will be there for your convenience, but if you don't mind, let's wait till the end of this video. Thank you very much.
Okay, so step one, inspiration. Designers are like chefs. For the most part, we don't invent new ingredients. We take ingredients that already exist and combine them in new and exciting ways. For example, you might give two different chefs flour, water, tomato, basil, and cheese, and one of them might make pizza. The other one might make pasta.
Now this is something that I say all of the time. When it comes to creating a trading card game, or any game actually, you don't have to be 100% original. If you take a look at existing games, you can say with 100% confidence that not one of those games is 100% original. They all take pieces from each other. So why would you try to come up with something that is 100% original? It is so much simpler if you just take a look at existing ingredients and decide what tastes the best to you. Then you can start adding your own flavor, your own spices to that existing recipe. Eventually, over time, it becomes its very own dish.
So here's the recipe for Hearthstone's core gameplay. We took a lot of ingredients from the World of Warcraft trading card game, like the card types, direct attacking, sticky damage, the win condition. A really important ingredient from Battle Spirits, which is being re-released soon, which is the mana system. And then we came up with a few important innovations like hero powers, no responses, weapon durability, the fatigue mechanic.
So the base model for creating Hearthstone was taken from the World of Warcraft trading card game. Obviously the card heroes, the minions, direct attacking, sticky damage, and win conditions. Sticky damage works a lot better in online games, by the way. When you're playing with physical cards and it becomes a memory system, it is a lot harder to have sticky damage that persists turn after turn. Combined with Battle Spirit's mana system, just a nice little extra spice like we were talking about before with the ingredients. And then combine them with more innovative mechanics like the hero powers, where you can choose your class for your set of cards, and then that hero class can then use a special ability. So if you have no cards, you still have some mana, you can then tap into your hero power. And it does work well in a battle system where you have at least one move you can make that isn't unpredictable, so it doesn't leave a bad feeling with your opponent as well, but it is a good way to use the remainder of your resources and can leave the player feeling a little bit more fulfilled if they don't want to play all of their cards that turn. No responses, I assume they're talking about the timing system where it times down, so you don't have to worry about a player just waiting there for an hour trying to make a turn. Keeps the game running. Weapon durability. This is a good advantage to having an online game where the computer is doing all the maths for you. Harkening back to the sticky damage, where we can have damage persist over multiple turns. If the computer is doing all the work, you might as well lean into those added complexities.
So I asked Mike Elliott, who is the designer on Battle Spirits, how he comes up with new ideas for games, because he's designed like hundreds of board and card games. And he told me he gets all of his game ideas from games conventions. He just walks the show floor where everyone's showing off all their new stuff that they've been working on.
Funny they should mention that, because I recently went to a convention near mine. It was like an anime convention, and I saw this game. Now it isn't a trading card game, but it is a card game, and it's called the Necro Hamster. And I just thought that looks fantastic. The artwork is fantastic. In a clever way that they actually coaxed me over was they had these massive card designs, but the cards weren't the cards in the game. They were Pokemon designs in the style of these cards. So these cards look like old type of tarot card type styles, you know. So they had like the Umbreon and Pikachus and everything all in this style. And I went, ooh, what's that over there? That looks really, really good. And I went, well, you've drawn me over. Well done. The game is a quick 5 to 15 minute game. It was about £16, so about $20 or so. And I thought, go on then, I will buy it. And I am yet to play it yet, but I am really looking forward to, because reading it, it sounds like a lot of fun. And this is something that you can do when you go to games conventions. You can look around and see what games they are offering, what mechanics they are trying to entice you with, what sales techniques they are essentially enticing you with. So I quite liked the idea of using the giant Pokemon cards to draw you over, because it is something familiar, and we like familiarity. So we go over, we feel more comfortable instantly because we see something familiar but in a different style, and then the style becomes intriguing to us, so we give it a chance, which is fair enough. I am proof because I bought the game.
This is what the first prototype for Marvel Snap looked like.
Surprise.
I'm serious. Okay, so we were sitting around brainstorming game ideas, and Hamilton said, you know, I've always wanted to play a turn-based strategy game with the backgammon doubling cube. And so I booted up Hearthstone, and every turn of the game, Hamilton said, you know, would you double the cube right now? If your opponent doubled the cube, would you concede? And we got to immediately feel the impact of that mechanic without having to build anything. And through those initial playtests, we realized a couple things about this doubling mechanic. It increased the emotional range, right? Instead of just 1 star per match, you're playing for potentially a lot more stars. We spent less time losing, right? In a normal game, if you have like a 5% chance to win, you got to play that all the way out, right? Because you might win. And that period of time where you're like probably going to lose can be pretty grueling, like the final 6 hours of a game of Monopoly. But when you're incentivized to bail out because you're going to lose less cubes, you can just leave and you spend less time in that grueling zone. Games that you don't play all the way to completion are faster, obviously. But there was 2 other things that I think had a really big impact that I'm going to dig into a little bit more. So the first is zero sum is zero fun. If 2 players play a game and one of them wins and the other loses, and it is as fun to win as it is not fun to lose, you have created net zero joy. You just moved happiness from one person to another.
So it always has to be more fun to win than it is to lose. Now, I bet you can think of a game where you lost 3-4 times in a row, but you won that one time and it was so worth it. And if you can remember that game, put it in the comments section below. See if we can get some consistency with what games actually have this correct formula. So something where the winning of the game just once is much better than losing the game several times.
I really like PUBG Mobile. I played a lot of PUBG Mobile, and the first time I played it, I got first place. And the second time I played it, I got first place again out of 100 people. And I was like, guys, I just won my first 2 games of PUBG Mobile. I'm so good. And all my friends jumped on in the comments and were like, dude, you played 100% bots in those first 2 games.
See, because the tactic behind that is to get you used to winning. You want to have the win, and then they start scaling up the challenges. Now, if you're creating a trading card game, this is a little bit harder to do because you are definitely playing in a PvP format. You know, you're not playing against bots, you're not playing against just AI. But sometimes when you're playing with friends, they will give you a small handicap in certain games, whether that's a sport game, a card game, a board game, something like that. Sometimes they go, oh yeah, it's your first time playing Monopoly, there's an extra 500 for you, just till you get used to things. Oh, it's your first time playing football, okay, we won't tackle you as hard. So we have a history of human instinct where we want to give people that handicap to introduce them into that new environment. Now, this isn't necessary to design into a TCG because a lot of times the community, the players, will incorporate that for new players because they want new players to come in and play that game, the game that they're playing, the game that they love. But if you can think of a non-intrusive design just to wedge into your game to perhaps make it a little bit easier for new players, then why not?
So this talk by George Fan at the 2012 entitled How I Got My Mom to Play Through Plants vs. Zombies is the best GDC talk of all time. It's fantastic, yeah. And this slide was mind-blowing to me. If you put more than 8 words on the screen, players will not read them.
Okay, so I was about to say that I haven't heard this before, except that I have watched this video quite a while ago, so obviously I haven't retained this information. But let's take a look at this. 8 words on the screen at any given time, and players will start to lose interest. Now, how does that work for a trading card game? Because a lot of effects have more than 8 words. Well, is it translating things into keywords? By using more keywords, we are reducing the amount of words on the text. I mean, I can think of scenarios back in the Yu-Gi-Oh days where I would start reading an effect and I would just zone out and move on to the next card, because Yu-Gi-Oh famous for their wall of text and lack of keywords. This obviously is a problem, but it's something that I've always thought of in a general sense of not having paragraphs, but I never thought of a specific number to it. So 8 words on the screen at any given time and players will start to lose interest. This is something I'm probably going to take further into my own trading card game design from now on, just to see if I can reduce effects down to this. I don't see this being a hard cap, but a soft rule in place where if I can reduce it down to that amount, then I will definitely try. Of course, some effects are more complicated than others.
The thing that's really hard to do is card text. So we realized that on Hearthstone, for a digital game, we didn't need to write out as much of the edge case stuff. So your hero deals 2 fire damage to target hero or ally became deal 2 damage. The average word count for Hearthstone was 9 words. And for Snap, it's 11, partially because we don't use keywords. So we've fallen short of the George fan ideal there, which makes me sad. But to make sure that text complexity stayed low, we would audition our cards with people. We would sit them down and show them the cards. And if you had to read a card more than one time, we said, raise your hand and let us know, because we don't want any card text to be confusing enough that you'd have to read it twice to understand it.
Now that is a good way of testing things. If your players have to read the card more than once, then raise your hand. This goes back to one of the things that Eric Lang had said, who was a famous board game designer. He mentioned that if a player had to ask the same question more than once, then that was a red flag, essentially, which is a similar rule to this. If a player has to reread the rule more than once, then yes, it is a red flag and we should readdress that.
And this caused another problem, which was if you're playing most of your games for hundreds of cubes, but on turn 1, you're only playing for 1 cube and your hand is just slightly less than average, you should bail out, right? Just like only play the games where you have a chance to win hundreds of cubes by having a great hand. So people were conceding on turn 1 most of the games. We realized we had to bring in the range so that the average cube game and the starting cube game were much closer in scale. So we got rid of all the auto doubling and just let people snap a couple times. Hopefully that would bring it down. People missed having the opportunity to bail out before the game ended. They really liked feeling like an excuse to leave. So we combined all of our approaches up to now. We added 1 auto double at the end of the game, so you could bail out on turn 5 if you want to. We had 1 snap where you could tap on the cube to double it. Eventually we added the snap back, and that's where we ended up. That's how we got there. It was quite the journey.
Now, the snap mechanic is a peculiar one that they added to this card game, and it is more popularly known as something else, and that is called the Jenga Effect. So if you think of a tower block of Jenga, every time you remove a piece and you're adding it to the top, the tower is becoming more unstable. The further you progress in the game, the more unstable the tower becomes and the higher it becomes. Essentially, the stakes have been raised by that much. And now from this point, you'll probably start to see this in other types of games and you'll go, oh, that's the Jenga effect, where the stakes are constantly increased. Now, removing the card game dynamic and just taking a look at a game like Jenga, what is the skill level, what is the complexity level, what is the fun level of the game? Well, skill-wise, it is just about having a steady hand. Complexity-wise, you are removing 1 block and adding that block to the top, so very simple. And fun-wise, well, the stakes are constantly raising, so you're getting that type of gambler's kick out of it. You know, the more the stakes are raising, the higher the tension becomes, until eventually it comes all down and somebody's a winner. So when you think of a game as simple as Jenga, and then you start to add a more complex mechanic behind it, something that could keep you perhaps even more engaged while still having that Jenga rush. It is a clever combination to have, and you have to reward Ben and his team for coming up with this.
So you can have games that are low skill and high luck, like Chutes and Ladders, or high skill and low luck, like chess. But you can also have games, like my favorite game to make fun of, Tic-Tac-Toe, which is low skill and low luck. And you can have games that are high luck and high skill, like poker. So all card games have some amount of randomness because you shuffle a deck of cards and draw from a random deck. Yeah. But Hearthstone, I think, has less variance at its core than other card games for a couple reasons. One, the mana system isn't random. You just get one every single turn of the game. Smaller decks decrease the variance some amount. And because you aren't drawing resources, you're just drawing more usable cards every turn, so you effectively have a higher rate of card draw. And those all reduce the variance of Hearthstone's core gameplay rules.
So that's got me thinking about other trading card games and where they stand with a luck to skill ratio. So say if they can be from 0 to 10 and 0 to 10 for luck and skill, I would just be curious on where they would fall in the scale. I suppose maybe a future video would be quite good for that, but if you've got an idea in the comments section, say you want to pick like the One Piece game or Magic the Gathering or something, and you want to say, I don't know, it's a 5 skill 8 luck game or vice versa, put it in the comment section because I'd be curious to see your opinions. Because really, if you were making that type of video, it would be very opinion based. So actually, it might be good if I start putting out polls, because that would be an interesting video to take a look at and discuss. But let me know in the comment section below what you think about that idea, or whether you want to see that video, or whether you just want to post a luck and skill based off a certain trading card game. I'd be curious to see any of those opinions. Thank you.
Okay, so here's my 4 takeaways. Chefs need ingredients, so stock your pantry. Be the speedboat until your direction is clear. Embrace randomness, input or output. And simplify, even if your team hates you. All right, that's all I got. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, everybody.
Yeah, chef's ingredients, like we said, nothing is original. Take a recipe from another card game or another different type of game. You know, you don't have to be limited by the genre of game that you're playing to go, oh, that shooting game would translate into a card game. I'm not sure off the top of my head, but it's just an example of picking something a bit more far-fetched. That farming simulator game would make a good card game. You know, something random like that. And then speedboat, yes, work your way through everything till you have it, and then you can flesh it out, which then you can then reverse by then stripping it away and simplifying it as well. And then of course, embracing randomness. If the game is 100% predictable, then it is not enjoyable. We love the randomness in games. That little surprise, you know, when people tell you a joke and you don't expect the punchline and we smile, that is randomness. We get joy from randomness. So make sure that in at least some form you incorporate into your game. So don't forget to hit the like button, and thank you very much for watching my TCG R&D. I have been James, and I hope to see you next time. Goodbye.